Okay, let me share my screen with you and let's get going here. It is now at the stroke of 9 o'clock Pacific time. All right, well, thank you everybody for joining us today for this webinar on do you want to get ISO or AS9100 certified? We are going to cover a bunch of stuff today. So let's look at what we're going to cover. And we have, and I'll introduce the team that's going to be walking you through stuff today. So first is why, especially right now. Big question for a lot of folks. And then of course what the process is, and that Michael will help us through that part, going into detail about the actual process. And then we'll talk about what are the resources you need, doing it yourself, the timeline, and what it looks like if we were to help you with it. We've helped a lot of companies do this and have some experience. So for today, we have, there's 3 of us on the team and Sarah backing us up on the technical side. So Michael is an ASQ certified auditor and one of our implementation specialists. Brian, former machinist, also used to be an implementation specialist and then now helps us on the sales team. And myself, co-founder of ProShop and the shop where we built ProShop in the first place. So, so that's us. And we're going to start off by actually doing a little bit of a video here. And oh, you know what? Hold on a second. I'm going to stop this share real quick and reshare with share computer audio and optimize for streaming video. Apologies, I missed that before. All right, we're going to start off with this short 3-minute little video. So sit back, grab some popcorn, and let's check it out.
Occasionally, a product comes along and transforms the way things were done before. When you see it, it's so obvious, robust, simple, elegant, like wheels on luggage. Why didn't luggage always have wheels? It's so obvious now. We think QMS integrated with ERP is the same way. That's what we thought nearly 20 years ago when we ran our shop. We didn't want paper or PDF documents in a filing cabinet or separate QMS systems that didn't talk with our ERP, so we built ProShop. In doing so, we asked this question: what if the whole reason for your QMS was to make your company better? That compliance and auditing were an afterthought? What if everything was seamlessly connected from procedures to training to non-conformance reports, and it was all connected back to your ERP system in real time? Business is demanding in the 21st century. Customers demand perfect quality, flawless paperwork, and all the certifications to prove it. The amount of work it takes to maintain all of that in a traditional QMS is crushing. You spend hours per day preparing document packages, nights and weekends working on cleaning up your QMS to get prepared for an audit. ProShop turns that idea on its head. Paperwork is prepared in seconds. You are always audit ready. By integrating all the QMS functions paperlessly and seamlessly with the ERP modules, there is never a need to manually update data because you have silos of information. ProShop handles everything from the little details like monitoring your in-process inspection and tracking calibration to the highest level of your company where it manages your quality processes, employee training, and org chart. And because it's web-based, it's easy to access from any device, freeing you up from the need to have installed software to manage it all, and you can do it from anywhere, whether you use our cloud service or have your system on-premise. All the forms you need are built in and available right from the ERP modules. Have an RMA that needs to be issued? Straight from a work order, select the RMA option and everything is instantly filled in and connected. Employees will receive instant notification and seamless workflows will guide you through the non-conformance and corrective action process. Everyone is up to date. All the information is connected. It's never been this easy to drive continuous improvement in your organization and be ready to show an auditor the proof at any time. If your goal is to become certified or improve your existing QMS, we offer fully compliant templates tailored to the aerospace, medical, and commercial markets to get certified in half the time and cost of other systems. And our team of ASQ certified quality consultants can help your company get certification ready. And if you need more assurance, consider that we're the highest rated manufacturing QMS on the market. When you're ready to upgrade and build your system to scale your company easily, quickly, and with the highest degree of accountability, you're ready for ProShop. Book a demo today.
All right. Oh, there we go. Okay. It's so funny when I watch that, it's so obvious which of those are real pictures and which ones are stock video. We need to swap those out, I think. All right, so why would we want to go for ISO or AS right now? And I do want to point out, for the rest of this demo, we're going to just talk about, we're just going to use the term AS. We believe that, especially when you're running ProShop, the difference in effort between getting ISO and AS is small enough that you might as well just go for it. So just for some housekeeping notes there. Obviously, with COVID right now, there's a lot of shakeups in the market. Traditionally, it's kind of expensive to get ISO certified or AS, and takes a long time. So why would you want to do that right now? And I think the biggest reason is opportunities. We recently polled our customers, and the customers that are the busiest, and some of them are actually still very, very busy, are the ones that are AS certified and are servicing and are diversified into the space and defense markets. It's clear that commercial aerospace is pretty soft right at the moment. That will certainly come back. But the actual space industry and defense are still going quite strong. And the companies that compete at that level are working on work that's generally higher margins with less competition. And the whole process of getting certified really initiates a drive of improvement in your company. It sort of forces you in a good way to focus on your business processes, your efficiency, your continuous improvement. And it's documented fact that companies that are certified are more profitable than those that aren't. And just the space, when I found this yesterday, just the space market alone is a huge market. It's about 350 billion today, going up to more than $1 trillion in the next 20 years. I have a little background noise from somebody. Who is that? Michael, that might be you. You're not muted. Thank you. All right, let's go to the next slide here. So Michael's actually going to take over, so I suppose you can unmute and talk about really what is the process for achieving our certification and what's the process for going through that. So Michael, take it away. I'll start with your first slide here.
All right, thanks, Paul. So this is a question I get a lot from existing and potential customers about how do we get that certification so then we can go get that business and accept those orders. And it is a process that requires some project management that can span anywhere from 3 to 6 months, just because it takes time to do the work needed and also to collect the records and to pass the audits that occur. So to actually get the certification, you have to pass 2 certification audits. After the second audit, more likely there will be nonconformities that were identified. So you have to manage those nonconformities through the corrective action process in order to be recommended for certification. So the 2 certification audits themselves consist of what's called a stage 1 and a stage 2 audit. The stage 1 audit can be on-site or remote. It can certainly be remote if you're using ProShop. From what I'm hearing and seeing now with clients, they're requesting just a remote stage 1 so that the auditors themselves don't have to travel, and the registrars are more than happy to do that. The stage 2 audit is where the actual audit occurs, and that can result in nonconformities, which are just non-fulfillment of some requirements. So after that, what I call NCR follow-up, which is part of the, can you go to the next slide, Paul?
Sure.
Yeah, so after you have NCRs, you need to initiate corrective actions, which is where you basically define what the root cause is and what your corrective action plan is, what you're going to do to correct it, prevent recurrence, and verify its effectiveness. Once those plans are approved, meaning you don't actually have to have implemented the corrective actions yet, you just have to have a plan in place, then the auditor accepts those, and then the registrar itself will review the audit report, which is called technical review. And this is where the registrar verifies that the audit met all of their requirements, because the auditors themselves, or should I say the registrars themselves, those companies are also audited to requirements to verify that they're doing what they're supposed to. So in this business, everyone is audited really from the top down, so that we all verify that we're meeting the applicable requirements. Once your audit reports pass technical review and they're good, then the registrar has about 60 to 90 days to issue your actual certificate. And so from that point forward, you would get notified, yep, we passed technical review, you're good, we'll get you your cert shortly. Like I said, they're allowed to take that much time, but it certainly happens much faster than that. And so once you actually have your cert, now you are certified, and the next step is just to maintain that certificate by passing what are called surveillance audits, and those occur annually. So the next slide here. So the certification itself, like we're on to maintaining it now, is really a 3-year annual audit cycle, where in year 1, starting, say if we start from no certification, our first year will be our stage 1 and stage 2 certification audits, or initial certification audits. And then about a year later, you have a surveillance audit. And then a year after that, you have another surveillance audit. And then in what would be year 4, the cycle repeats itself, only you have what's called just a certification audit. There is no stage 1 or stage 2, it's just one audit. The certification audits themselves are longer than the surveillance audits because they are there to certify your QMS and verify all of the requirements. So more audit days are required. That's what I mean by the audits are longer. Surveillance audits are much shorter because they're only doing half of the QMS requirements. So you typically would sign a contract with the registrar for this 3-year cycle, and they will tell you what the costs are for each year. And you can change registrars mid-cycle if you had to, although there's a lengthy process for that. Or you could just wait till the start of your next cycle to change registrars if there is a need to change. You're not stuck with a registrar for any particular period of time. There are a lot of them out there. So I typically recommend getting quotes from several registrars. It's when you're finding one initially. So let's go to the next slide. Did we skip one?
Oh, yes. Sorry.
Okay. So to prepare for those stage 1 and 2 audits, it is a process that does require some project management. The first step is just to get quotes from a registrar or certifying body. Forget which one it is. They refer to the same thing. One term is used more in the European market, and then one term is used in like the US market, but they refer to the same organization. Get quotes for your stage 1 and stage 2 audits, and select a registrar, and then select your audit dates. So your audit dates will determine how much time you have to prepare for those stage 1 and 2 audits. So these steps here are the things that you need to do to prepare for those stage 1 and 2 audits. So I recommend 3 to 6 months to prepare for those stage 1 and stage 2 audits. So be thinking, if you want to have your certificate, say, where are we at now, August, if you wanted to have your certificate like next spring, then now would be a great time to start. I wouldn't wait until next February to start this process and want to have your certificate by June or July. That's just not enough time really to get prepared and collect the record. So that's the first step, is to know how long you think the process will take and schedule your audits far enough in the future to give you time to complete all this. And this also depends on the auditor availability too, because they will book out, well, when they're there for your audits, they'll hit you up to try and schedule next year's audit right then and get it on their calendar. So they book out like far in advance. And the next thing you want to do is perform what's called a gap assessment. So the registrars refer to this as a pre-audit assessment, and they will include this in the RFQs that they send to you. And this is basically an audit. This is where you will audit to the requirements, only you don't identify NCRs. What would be an NCR? A registrar will call it an issue. I just call it a gap. It's just where you're not meeting those requirements. And then that becomes your action item list of things that you know you need to address throughout the project. So part of addressing those gaps, depending on what they are, involves updating documentation. And it may also involve implementing changes, activities, processes, steps, things you're not actually doing right now that you need to do, or you need to figure out what you're going to do to meet those requirements and then do it and reflect those changes in the documentation. So that's like the first step, and which is where you're updating your documents and really getting your QMS ready to be released. And then after it's released, now we begin to actually train our employees to these procedures and tasks and processes and changes, and you're training them, and then you're also implementing these changes at the same time. And it's in this step like 5 where you're beginning to use ProShop and actually collect records, because a requirement before stage 1 is step 6 and 7, and that is that you've completed an internal audit to all 9100 requirements, or just to all the requirements of whatever standard you're getting audited to. So that has to happen right after you've released your system, and you have to have records to verify that you did what you said you were going to do. So I like to let time go by from actually implementing the QMS to collect those records. And it could be 30 days, it could be 60 days, it could be 90 days. But I think it's very practical to implement the QS and then a week later do the audits. It just doesn't work that way. Then after the audits, you have to have a management review record. So once those are done, you've completed the checkboxes that the registrar will ask for the stage 1 audit. So we prepare for our stage 1 audit, and then that happens. And then based on the stage 1 audit, the auditor might identify some things that need to be addressed before they'll come back to the stage 2 audit. So we address those things, and then we have our stage 2 audit, which is the actual audit that determines whether or not you will get your certificate. Let's go to the next slide. So what does ProShop do? Well, ProShop can just help you throughout this process at each of those different steps I talked about. We can help identify registrars, explain the process, explain what OASIS is. We can perform the gap assessment on site or even remotely. And then we can also help you update your documentation. And that could be as simple as just reviewing updates. It can be updating the actual documents, and it can also be like leading the process where ProShop assumes a project manager role interfacing with everyone in your company to get the documents updated. And we can also provide training for just relevant content that's in AS that isn't in 9001 or isn't in a medical environment. So things that come to mind are like counterfeit materials and fraud and product safety and risk management. Excuse me. So next slide. We can also perform the internal audits either on-site or remotely. We also can provide internal audit training to anyone in your company, and then you yourself or that then internal auditor can perform the internal audits. We can also facilitate management review if that's something you've never done before. We also provide assistance during the stage 1 and stage 2 audits. It could be on-site or it could be remotely. I mean, in general, like we support all of our customers during our audits, just regardless. If issues come up, I've been contacted. I know Paul's been contacted, especially if it's your first audit with using ProShop. And then we provide the post-audit support that's needed. So throughout the audit, if there's auditor has issues or questions or the corrective actions You're unsure about what sort of changes could be made or what should be made. That's where we come into, just to ensure that the corrective actions are accepted and you get your certificate. So all that said, all of these services are really just kind of offered a la carte, and it's based on what you need, um, and how much people and time you have. So the costs themselves are just quoted based upon the hours for the different services that you would need. But in most cases, I do require a gap assessment so that I know where you stand and so that you know where you stand. And it also ensures that each requirement, regardless of the standard, is at least verified and identified as either a gap or um, you conform to it, so that nothing is missed. Because in the actual audit themselves, the auditors will go through each requirement line by line, and they will look for verification to each requirement. So to prepare for that scenario, um, you need to do the same thing. So I think that's it, Paul. Is there another
All
slide?
right. Thanks, Michael. No, so that was great. Thanks for all the detail. So the question really then is what resource. So we'll talk about kind of if you're doing it on your own, and if you're doing it with the help of a ProShop. So the first thing, if you're doing it on your own, is someone with QMS experience. You know, as Michael just indicated, there's a it's a complicated process, and if you haven't done it before or have a pretty deep amount of QMS experience, it can really be a daunting task for a shop owner or someone that is running their shop, but they've never gone through this process before. Um, and and you need a lot of time. It's in most shops, the people running the company are busy quoting work and getting out jobs and making sure that work is continuing, and taking the sheer volume of time that it's going to take to actually do all this work may sometimes be a bit daunting. So how much time do you need? Michael, you can speak to this a little better than I can, but when we were prepping, you said about 200 to 300 hours to write your documentation.
Yeah, I mean, consider the volume that ProShop has in it already in terms of the tasks, the training, the procedures, how everything's linked together. It takes time just to write these documents, and it takes even more time for collaboration, because if I write a document, I need to go to the people affected by the document to verify that my idea is correct, and also to get their buy-in for it, because they're more likely to accept these documents and what they mean if they're involved in it. So I've had a lot of experience writing, so I'd say 200 to 300 hours is good, would be good for me. But to someone without a technical writing background and that project management piece, it would take longer than that.
Mm-hmm. And that will extrapolate out if you're doing this on nights and weekends, or just in your spare hours as you're trying to run your shop, to easily more than a year of total lead time from starting it till the time where you're passing your stage 2, getting your cert. And then you still have a bit of an unproven process, right? If you're building all this from scratch and just trying to find materials and kind of think about it yourself, more likely that you could have some nonconformances when you go for those gap assessments. And then the question comes up, well, how do you keep track of it all? I found this slide and I absolutely love it. So in a traditional ERP system, most of which are paper-based, you're going to have a lot of paper records, whether those are copies of customer purchase orders, or your contract review forms, or your nonconformance forms, or your in-process inspection forms. Those will add up to a lot of paper. I found this number that on average, about 15% of an organization's revenue is spent creating, managing, and distributing paper documents. That is a lot of money. So if you can take a little bit of a step up into a system where all your documentation is managed digitally, like in file folders and in PDF files and Word documents and Excel sheets. Definitely a little bit of improvement over paper, but still a pretty significant amount of complexity. And a lot of the shops that we work with that come on board have just a myriad of file folders all over their network with different people saving things at different spots and inconsistent naming formats and different revisions and not even using some of the proper tools within Word or Excel to review changes. They just save as and make a new one. So still not super great. So what does this look like with us? And there's a couple of questions here. Tom, yes, we will get to the point where we touch on flying start. And Ned, you must be muted because I think most people are hearing us. And you can't talk. If you want to ask, yeah, so a bit of housekeeping, sorry. If you do have questions, and we will get to a Q&A later for sure, there is a little question and answer button at the bottom of the bar, and you can go ahead and ask your questions right now, and we'll definitely get to them during the Q&A if something just strikes you as a question. So we truly believe that we can, and we've proven it, that we can help clients get certified in probably less than half the time and cost of other systems. We even had a QMS consultant here in Washington State, after going through it with a client of ours, tell us that they thought that the process could, for not only initial certification, but even just the management of it later, would be about half the time and half the cost on an ongoing basis than any other system they'd seen. So as Michael said, we can be, if you want, become your in-house expert to help you through the certification, facilitating sort of any amount of work that you aren't comfortable with or just don't have the time to do. And then how do we do all this? First of all, ProShop is, if we haven't seen demos, and we will in a little bit here, get into a live demo with Brian. ProShop is just as much a QMS system as it is an ERP system. And those modules are just really tightly integrated together in a pretty seamless way. And we do not sell our modules separately. Some companies call us and ask, hey, just give me a quote on the QMS modules. And that's just not how we do it. We believe that the integration of quality throughout the entire value stream is just so deeply connected that it'd be like taking the link out of the middle of a chain, right? There's just processes all throughout ProShop that tie right back to the standards and being compliant. And then we do have what we call a flying start package, which is, so I mentioned that we don't sell our modules separately. When a company gets ProShop, they get all of our modules. But those modules on the QMS side of things will typically be empty of content. So the quality manual, the procedures, the tasks, the training, the company positions, those things that are so intimate, so involved with the QMS will just be sort of a blank slate. You can start making new documents. But our Flying Start package is really the only option we sell. And what you get there is basically a complete template. And we have both this aerospace version, and we are working on a medical version as well. But it basically comes with a complete set of company templates, complete manual, about 30 different procedures, about 300 tasks, a whole bunch of training documents, dozens of company positions, all with detailed records of what the training requirements are. And I mixed the order of those up. So basically, because ProShop was designed and built in a shop that was certified, we just built all the workflows to be compliant to the standard. So if you train and implement ProShop as it's designed and as we recommend, you almost essentially will have will be compliant to the standard. So. And that's, again, why we just don't sell those modules separately. So let's talk a little bit more about that Flying Start package. And Brian will actually show us live just one or two examples of the actual content itself, and what sort of the Flying Start package allows us to do. It allows you to invest probably dozens of hours rather than hundreds. We typically see companies changing maybe on order of about 10% of the content that we provide, keeping about 90% of it exactly as we delivered it, and just sort of customizing that 10% just for your particular use case. Maybe you have certain things that you do that are a little different than the way we outlined it, or are not outlined in our content. So we again, so much less time, and then of course we can provide help with that customization, or you can do that yourself as you see fit. And then what about timeline? So the implementation of ProShop can be really quick. The fastest we've ever done it is we had a customer turn off their old ERP system in 30 days. That is not normal. Something like 90 or so is a lot more normal. And then once you have, as Michael elaborated on earlier, once you have ProShop implemented and you're generating those records on a daily basis, those records of your estimating and your order entry and your contract review and your NCRs and your corrective actions, those are the records that an auditor will be looking for, and those you're just kind of build as you use ProShop. So once you have sort of implemented ProShop and you're now live, like he said before, somewhere between 30 and 90 days to actually collect all the records, and then schedule your stage one. Michael, correct me if an auditor wants about 30 days past your last set of records before they would come on site and actually do the audit, stage one?
Well, this varies per auditor, registrar, and even industry. Some auditors may say we want to see at least 90 days worth of records. Some don't flow down any records requirements at all. But in practice, you want to have an implemented system before the stage one audit. If you know you've just implemented the QMS, and I guess I will go back up. So if you start working on your QMS from day one at the same time you start training with ProShop, then you have 90 days to train to ProShop, but also to update your Flying Start package such that when you actually roll out ProShop to use it, you're also rolling out the QMS, because you really can't separate the two. The two are interrelated and support each other. So from there on, it's to your benefit to just have as much time under your belt actually implementing ProShop, so that when the auditor shows up to do the stage one, they see that you have a QMS and there are specific records already there. It really does no good to have an audit when you know yourself that you're not really haven't fully implemented ProShop yet. So,
Thanks,
and a
Michael.
stage two audit, I believe, is at least 30 days after the stage one. It can be months even after that, but they're not a week apart by any means.
And is the difference between them really just how long it takes the company to fix any nonconformances that were found in stage one?
Yeah, there's a specific requirement about, and I can't recall the verbiage in their auditing standards themselves about that time frame.
Okay.
But that's the basic idea of it. The stage one is just there to verify that you have a QMS, and they look for specific records. They tour the building, and they're there to say, yep, they do have a QMS that meets these fundamental requirements. So now they can proceed to the stage two audit, which is where they actually verify records. So you need to really have records in order for the auditor to verify the requirements. In order for the auditor to do their job, there needs to be records.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't produce a record that you're supposed to produce, that in and itself is like a non-conformance.
Right. Okay, great. Thanks for elaborating on that. We recently, so as we mentioned, we've helped several customers through this process, and here's one company in Arizona, machine shop that did just pass their, I think it was their stage one, in about 6 months after implementing ProShop, and Phil had this to say, so I won't read it all off, but he was obviously very happy with it, and he worked with Michael, he worked with our implementation folks, and it was just a really solid process, and they did it well as well. They really jumped in with both feet and started working on the QMS, right at the same time as the ERP, and that's sort of the best practice that we we would recommend. All right, let's switch over and have Brian show us some actual stuff. So Brian, let me stop sharing my screen and you can share yours and show us what you got.
Great. Great. Thanks, Paul. I appreciate that. Yeah, this is, so I'm sharing my screen here, just bear with me. This is really kind of the part that I really like and appreciate with ProShop is because, you know, getting ISO or AS certified is definitely beneficial for a sales tool. It's beneficial for your company as a whole, makes you more efficient. And what I really like is to be able to show you why it's more efficient. It's going to be able to affect the way that you manage all of your documents, manage your workflow, and just really get to the things that you need to do that are actually going to make you money instead of just shuffling papers around like Paul mentioned before. So there's a couple different areas that I want to focus on. The first one I like to show is really just kind of an everyday thing where we're going to be having to collect a data package or a document package for our customer, because that's part of what is required with a lot of AS. They need material certifications, first article certifications, first article results rather, and reports, and they need that all shipped with the document, or the package rather. So what we do in ProShop is we enter that data at point of use. So if we're talking about doing things like first articles, we'll be entering that data right on the page where we're also finding any of our inspection documents. Here in this case, we have an inspection print that's linked into the page that we're actually going to also be recording our data. When we're talking about our material certifications, we link those in at the receiving stage. So when we get material certs in with that bundle of tube or aluminum that came in or whatever it is, we'll have that document and we'll scan that in and attach it into the system. And at that point, ProShop can actually handle all of those documents for you. And you don't need to worry about them again until it's time to actually pull that document package together. Usually that happens. I always, you know, in our experience, you're trying to get the parts out the door. It's 2:30. You can see the UPS truck coming, and somebody's got to scramble and get those documents together. So rather than going through folders, files on the network, or anything like that, ProShop is going to pull all that together for you. We just do that at our final inspection step. All of the requirements are actually predefined based on your client. So every client that you have in the system, you'll go in and you'll define, do they require material certifications, first article forms, COCs, any of that kind of stuff. And this is actually pre-checked for me. So I don't even need to think about this. I just hit the print button, and the system's going to come up with everything that I need. And if I'm missing something, I'll actually get a warning in the upper right saying, hey, you're missing some information here. I was looking for certs. I was expecting to find certs for a bill of material item and certs for material, and I didn't find those. So right away, I know if I'm missing something. Usually you don't, because everybody's doing their bit, whether it's in receiving or some other area. So as we move through, you can see it's pulled together all of my in this case, my helicoil certs, my material test results, my plating certs. Here's my print. And we move down through. Looks like I've got a
it's the same print for both. It's the same.
Oh,
print
it's the same print. Oh,
yep.
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay. So it's just
print
getting
it twice.
Right, because it won't do that. Here's my first article form, and this is pre-formatted for AS9100 format because that's what I've set my customer as. So we get all of our information that pulls through from purchasing. We can do digital signatures. Form 2 is going to show us our product accountability, if there is any, and the way this particular customer is set up. None of that needs to come through for this item. And then we have our actual inspection for the product itself. So coming from the first article, what are the requirements, what were the results, etc. And then this one is also going to show me anything that I pulled from inventory. I get all the reports for that as well. So if I happen to be pulling information for if I happen to be pulling parts from inventory to ship to my customer, these items will be collated for me automatically. Same exact stuff, just from a sub-tier work order that was processed. You can see this particular form is a lot more thorough than the top level. So really works well for assemblies, any of that kind of stuff. So I can print all this I can print all my first article forms here and copy all my attachments, all my certs and that kind of stuff, and get that document package ready to go in a very, very short amount of time. So a ton of time savings there. This is one of my favorite features about ProShop, simply because it is really kind of saved the day more than once, almost every day, in fact, as we got work out the door. So I really like to start with that, because I think that's a great example of sort of the full function of how the system in reality can get you moving forward. And it also helps meet all of those QMS requirements. That's obviously, if you say that you can track all those things, it's one thing to be able to track it and then go find it, but it's a wholly other thing to be able to have the system provide that stuff for you with just a click of a button. All right, so I'm going to move ahead and move into a couple other areas. One of the things that we talked about, or that gets talked about often, is handling RMAs, handling what happens when there's a rejection. So in this case, in this particular order, we had sent this order to the customer. A few parts got damaged in shipping. They called us up and wanted to send them back so they can get them replaced or repaired or what have you. So that process is pretty cool in ProShop, because we link everything together from module to module and document to document. And so if I'm driving certain behavior right from this work order, this is what we're looking at. A work order, for those of you that don't know, it's very much a job traveler, if that's a common term for a lot of people with the systems that are using now. So essentially, I'm going to start here at my work order, and I'm going to decide what I need to do. So in this case, we have documented we shipped 150. We brought 2 of them back in. Of course, this work order is completed, so we've actually reworked and sent them out. But to start my RMA process, I simply click a link, and I can start my RMA right here. Now, I'm not going to do this. I actually already have an RMA connected. And there we go. So I'll just go into the RMA that's already existing here. If my mouse will agree with me. All right, so I've got this RMA that has been created. It's got all the detail about what I need to do with my accounting, what we're going to do for describing the problem, how we're going to disposition it. And when we do disposition it, we'll actually create the nonconformance right from here. Again, same thing, just a single button. I've already created the nonconformance. Go ahead.
Oh, it's worth noting that all of those fields, that metadata with part number, name, description, customer, PO number, work order number, those are all auto-filled, right? Since you didn't make a new one from scratch, they didn't see that, but everything's auto-filled. So you don't have to fill that stuff in yourself. It auto-links to everything.
Yeah, right. Yeah, thank you, Paul. And that's actually a really common theme throughout ProShop as we move from one record to another. If the data's there, we're not going to have you type it in again. There's no sense in that. Plus, it's actually more accurate if you don't have to type it in. Lots of flow through with that kind of data. On the non-conformance, as this gets created, again, we're actually tracking exactly what has happened, what dimension it's coming from. You have NCR codes and cause codes. So as you need to track your KPIs, I'm sure that non-conformances, scrap rates, and all that are typically considered your key performance indicators and need to be monitored monthly or quarterly or what have you. All of that can be done, and then you'll get better resolution on your codes, as well as what the causes are. So you can actually have a real impact when you're reviewing the data about what to do about it, not just numbers, right? You can say, well, clearly handling is an issue, so we need to come up with some sort of corrective action for that. As I continue to look down the list, I'm actually going to show you one quick thing here that's not done. Is in general, when you create nonconformances, and it doesn't matter if you're building it from an RMA, or if you're building it from a first article or any inspection form, when you're doing this, you can actually assign this document to a specific person, or in this case, I'll assign it to the QA lead. And when I save this, what happens is you'll see that this is now assigned to the person to deal with. Now, this one happens to be complete, but as I mouse over that, you'll see that I'm the person that actually fills this company position. So when this is assigned, our system will automatically notify that person with a system message and saying, hey, this nonconformance is now assigned to me. Not only is it assigned to me and it goes into my inbox, I actually have a document queue elsewhere that it will show up in, but it also provides me with a link right to that. So now we have an automatic notification saying, hey, there's something that needs to happen. You need to do something about this. The notifications work in a number of different ways as well. So not only do I get it because I'm assigned this job, but if I happen to be a project manager or a planner or a programmer for a specific work order, I'll also get a notice. Even if it wasn't assigned to me, I'll get a notice that something has gone wrong with my job. Again, that's true for RMAs, in-process inspections, first article inspections. So I really get a kind of a pulse on the heartbeat of what's going on with the work in the system by a lot of these sort of automated messages. All right, so on our non-conformance here, we also track exactly what the disposition is. Now, I mentioned that we do corrective actions. So again, same thing, to create a corrective action. It's exactly the same process, just a click, and we can do that. We'll just go right to the one that already exists here. And we can move into what are we going to do about this? Because that's definitely part of having a QMS, is being able to recognize and measure what you're doing and then affect change in a positive manner. So we can go through all of these items, figure out what to do about it, and see in real time what the solution is. And in this case, the solution is actually updating our packaging requirements. So we'll go into our part record where this data was entered. We'll be able to see the packaging notes here. This note in red is always going to show on every new work order that's created. So that's going to be an automatic function moving forward. If I go into my shipping operation, I'll be able to see I have a couple of key components added. The work instruction has been updated to package really well with foam, etc., as well as we've added some inspection information. So we can see that we actually have to add a verification of the packaging. So to make sure that this product doesn't get scratched or damaged in shipping again, we've gone through all the right steps to package it correctly and then also verify it. And so every work order from this point forward will include these items. One more thing as I kind of wrap up here. We just took a look at the non-conformance side of things. So if we take a look here, again, sort of tying this back to the quality management system, and if we go into our quality procedures, I can pull up the quality procedure from non-conforming product. On the non-conforming product, these quality procedures, this is a sort of a great example. All the quality procedures are kind of structured the same way, but we have our approvals chart up here. So you have rev control approvals, based on company position and all that kind of stuff. All that's built in. I will see the purpose and scope, etc. All the related documents, everything that is related to this particular quality procedure. Revision index. So as this quality procedure gets rev controlled, it will actually give us an index of what's changed. Our flow charts. So this is like just like a Visio chart that is going to show us the flow for all of the different things we need to do to handle that, and all of the different company positions that this quality procedure relates to. When I wanted to take a look at, let's say, an actual task, again, in the quality management side of things, these are the tasks. How do I do dispositioning non-conformance parts to rework? This is a task for that. On the right-hand side, I get to see all the people that are trained in this task, what their training level is, who does it on a regular basis, who's the trainer for it, etc. And then when you're getting audited, this is another thing that auditors really love, is show me the training record for this user. So if I pull this open, take a look, there's my training record. And it looks like I've trained myself, of course, but in demo systems, sometimes that's necessary. But you can get all of this data when you're being audited just with a couple of clicks of a button, and get right to the things that you need to show and that the auditor needs to see very, very quickly. If I needed to see anything for my particular user, and I needed to see how am I trained on any of the company positions I fill, all of that is linked right into my user page. I'll see if I'm a QA lead. These are all the things that I need to be trained in, and so on and so forth. So lots of integration, lots of quick connections to get from one point to another, and really know what it is that I'm supposed to be doing. So that's kind of going back to that idea of, the QMS is really, the intent isn't just to be able to satisfy and get audited and put the plaque on the wall. It's really about improving how you do things and being efficient so you can get to where you need to be very fast, and also work on improving your process so you have fewer mistakes, you're just more efficient, more productive, serving your customers better, and all of that equates to that bottom line in a very, very positive manner.
Thanks, Brian. If you could back up and show us one more thing, the RFL links, I think would be cool to see.
Oh, yeah.
And it's worth noting as well that what Brian is showing us here is not only the functionality of how ProShop works, but the actual stuff we're seeing is part of our Flying Start package. So you would get these, ProShop would come almost looking exactly like this, with the procedures, the flow charts, all the related documents, and then these RFL links that Brian's about to show you.
Yeah, so the RFL is great because as you need to, again, when you're being audited, this is definitely one of the things that comes up. How do you know what area of the standard does this help satisfy? So all of this will be connected automatically. And if I need to take a look at, let's say, I don't know, control of product and service provisions, I can just click the link and it'll take me right to that section of the standard. And I'll be able to reference that or have my auditor reference that for me. So again, it's totally connected just with a couple clicks, depending on what it is that I need to get to. And anybody in the system, as they're going through this, as they're getting trained, they have all of this available to them. So again, there's no question about what to do.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Brian. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And yeah, we can continue, I think, with your screen share if that works.
Yeah. And let's see. Of course, it reset on me. Bear with me one second.
All good. So if there are any questions, and usually after the demo portion, that's really where the questions start to happen, please go ahead and put them in the Q&A. And a couple of folks have been using the chat as well. So Tom asked, is there a list of ProShop friendly, in quotes, registrars available on a regional basis? That's a great question. We have not put that together, but we certainly have had many auditors around the country say that they have been really impressed and love auditing ProShop. So that's a great idea. We can certainly pair you up with a company near to you that has gone through an audit and maybe use their registrar. So we're going to run a little bit of a poll here. So I'm going to just go ahead and kick that off. So feel free to answer that if you'd be so inclined. And we'll move to the next slide while you guys are doing that poll. So just to kind of wrap things up, and we'll get to those questions after this slide here in the poll. It is, with diligent effort and with collaboration and working with us, it is definitely possible to get certified, or at least have your cert in the mail or coming soon, past a stage 2, in as little as 6 months from saying, let's go. And, by collaborating with us, you can focus on running your business, trying to stay busy through COVID, really focus on growth or just staying busy. And we've seen a lot of customers lately. We've had quite a bit of activity with customers now wanting to go for certification because they're strategically using this as a sales tool to start diversifying out into maybe the industries they really should have diversified into before, but they were kind of fat and happy, servicing just a fewer number of industries. As it relates to just sort of the ERP side and efficiency, it's pretty common for customers to tell us that they've seen about a 25% increase in shop throughput, sort of overall company efficiency. Same people, same machines, sometimes less people, same machines, and still pushing more work through with less time. And kind of as Michael and Brian described, kind of always being audit ready, right? When you run your business with ProShop and just kind of do it the way it's designed, the records are generated every day. They're just a click away from being audited, and it really isn't a scramble for weeks on end before your auditor comes to prepare for that. And obviously, new opportunities. that, you know, those defense and space businesses are definitely, you mean every day in the news, we see a new rocket that's launching, satellites that are launched. It's a massive industry. And obviously auditors love ProShop. We have reams of quotes from auditors and customers about how great the process was. And then on the topic of trying to, you know, run your business and generate more sales, ProShop absolutely becomes an essential sales tool. You know, at our shop, it was our key sales tool. If we could get a customer, you know, on a video conference or come to visit us, the first thing we would do is show them ProShop. And we've had clients that tell us when they get an auditor or a customer, you know, sending their sort of supplier assessment team into their company, they almost have to pry them out of the conference room. They're just so fascinated by ProShop and what it can do. So, all right, let's go to the next slide, Brian, and we'll end the poll here. Thanks for everyone. Got pretty good. We'll share these results right here. So it looks like about half of you are certified, half are not. And those that are not, a little more than half want to get, mostly want to get certified. Oops. I don't know if I'm scrolling or you guys can scroll that for yourselves. New sales opportunities, improve your company. Great reasons for getting certified. A few of you want ASAP and then spread out over time. And great. Well, awesome. Well, thanks for those results, you guys. Appreciate it. And let's get to some Q&A here. So what do we got? Let's see here. Can Flying Start be added after the initial purchase of ProShop? Yes, it can be, Kurt. Definitely can be. We definitely recommend, though, kind of as we talked to earlier, about starting the QMS process and tweaking it to your liking and really understanding it, sort of in collaboration with the ERP side of things. It's by no means necessary, but it's definitely a best practice. And part of what's useful about it is, as Brian showed us, for example, in that non-conforming product example, there's detailed instructions about how to actually do that in ProShop built into the Flying Start content. So while we will certainly train you on that anyway, you having this rich library of content available to you on day one is really great. And one thing that we have done with some clients that maybe are a little bit in a cash flow crunch is if they know they want the Flying Start, and especially if they want to work with us, you know, on the certification, we can embed the content at the beginning, but just delay the invoicing for a couple of months or something like that to make it easier on cash flow. So thanks for that question, Kurt. And Phil, can you show one example of a measurable that is a measurement measurable that is automatically tracked in ProShop, i.e. nothing more than a print and post the common areas of.
I think that would be our metrics on the system homepage.
Okay. Yeah, do you want to show that real quick?
Actually, unfortunately, I have another session that got booked immediately here in about 2 minutes.
Oh.
So I'll have to hand.
2 minutes.
I apologize. I'll have to hand this back to you.
No problem. No problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes we just back to back. All right. Let me share mine again.
And while you're doing that, thank you, everyone. I'm going to bow out, but I really appreciate the time that you guys gave us today. I think that's very valuable. There's a lot of stuff that we can continue to chat about, and at any point in time, I'd love to chat with any of you directly and answer any additional questions that may come up in the future. So thanks again, and hope to talk to you all soon.
Yeah, thanks so much, Brian. Let's see. So print and post the comments area for sharing. So I guess trying to understand that a little more, Phil. I mean, we have our system homepage here, which does have just direct links to the various dashboards where we see our KPIs. So for example, we could look at a supplier performance dashboard, which will automatically show us all the vendors we've purchased from in the last month. We can go ahead and change all the months or specifically look at different types of classifications of vendors. So there's that. And then if you're talking more about actual parts and inspection, then we can pull up an example of a work order. Let me just pull up a completed one here. And we can go into each operation. So you can define the specific inspection plan in what we call our part check information. So this is the inspection plan for this part number. And if we go want to look at the actual inspection results, we can see those here on sort of the raw data of the first article inspection page. So hopefully that answers your question. And then, of course, these dimensions would tie back to the drawing that we have linked in for that correct revision. And then Phil, show a demo of how management review is demonstrated. So we actually, I appreciate you asking that. So internal audits are going to be done through our audit report page. So we can pull up, we can issue audits, we can choose what section of the process we're auditing, we can register findings or opportunities or minor, we can link in corrective actions, preventative actions. But the actual management review itself, we still we don't have a management review module yet. That is in our to-do list. But so the management review, the records of your meeting would just be kept on a document, linked in typically right into ProShop. Perhaps in the audit report here, you can add attachments easily, and they would tie all back to these internal audits themselves. And let's see, I appreciate you guys. There's a lot of questions here, so I'm okay going over. I do have another meeting to get to soon. Let's see here, but I want to get these. Thanks you, Mitesh. And is the QMS will be available to generate dealer reports like productivity, first pass yield, machine breakdown? We certainly have productivity reports. You can through the NCR module. You can also certainly we don't directly have a first pass yield, but you can certainly look at NCRs for setup and those types of things compared to the number of parts you've made. So that is possible. And let's see, what's next? Can we measure FPY or LAR? I do not know what those acronyms are. Sorry, maybe you can elaborate on that. Thank you, Phil. Okay, awesome. So maybe we actually are through all the, minimum requirements for stage one. Michael, do you want to answer that? Are you still on with us? Minimum requirements for stage one to start a stage one audit?
Yeah, so that's driven by the registrar. The registrar could want to have specific requirements for how many months of records you have. If that's not the case, they do want to see a complete internal audit to all of the requirements of the standard in question and a management review record. You also need a released quality manual. You need specific procedures, and it really just depends on what standards you're going to. Medical is much more stringent in terms of what they want to see than aerospace, but you need to have an implemented and live QMS. What I mean by that is your documents have to be released and you have to be actively following them and implementing them before a stage one audit, because a stage one audit is there to verify that you have a QMS. So if you don't have any sort of released documentation, which is kind of the first step in having a live, implemented QMS, then they would say we're not ready to go to a stage two audit yet because you don't have QMS yet.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you all for your questions. I hope that was useful. Let me just close this out and move on just to our last slide. So here's our contact information. We'd love to chat with you, see if we can help you not only improve efficiency in your company, but open up new opportunities by getting certification. And thank you, Michael, for your expertise and time today, and have a great rest of your day, everybody.
Thanks.
All right.
Bye.